Hello, my friend. I am Charlie Simons, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about: religion and politics. That's why it's called Do Not Talk. When I first started 2.5 years ago, it was so you have a talk show called Do Not Talk? Yeah. What do you talk about? Two things you're not supposed to talk about: religion and politics. But you call it Do Not Talk? Yeah. Right. Well, that didn't make any sense. I mean, I know exactly. Perfect, isn't it? So, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much for supporting the show too by supporting those who advertise on it, and support us by supporting them. I'm talking about mypillow.com slash do not or slash Lee. That's my middle name. That's the promo code that can get you up to 75% off my pillow products, over 100 of them now in his online store. I'm talking about Mike Lindell, a true American patriot who put his fortune on the line to go after election fraud. It's now been heard, finally, it took all these years and all this effort to finally get the Supreme Court to agree to even look at the evidence and to hear the facts as presented by Mike and his attorneys. Attorneys. And Mike has almost lost it all, merely for questioning. All the major box stores have taken all of his products off their shelves. The last big one was Walmart. Screw you, Walmart. I'm done with you. No, I'm not going back after you did something like that. Seriously, I don't set foot in a Walmart anymore. mypillow.com slash Lee. And the other reason why I can say I don't need Walmart. I don't need CVS Pharmacy. I don't need Target. I don't need any of those wicked, huge, bloated, pathetic, left-leaning corporations is because I buy all my products now. Health supplements, hair, skin, household, food, including grass-fed beef. Over 400 products at that online store. And that is freedomswitchusa.com slash Lee. Again, my middle name is how you get access to that and get in on that. You go to that website and watch the video my friend Ron Lyons put together explaining how the whole thing works. It's like Costco meets Amazon. Over 400 products. Here's the best part: American made. Patriotic family, owned and operated for over 30 years out of Idaho Falls, Idaho. They're now in Tennessee and I think Missouri too, making their own products. You've never heard of them because they don't advertise. So I'm telling you about it now. freedomswitchusa.com slash Lee. freedomswitchusa.com slash Lee. I am really looking forward to it because I enjoy talking to him so much, and I really appreciate his passion for California and for the United States of America, the constitutional republic that our founding fathers and the Lord God Almighty blessed us to be born into and to live in. And I'm watching it being completely dismantled and destroyed right before my very eyes, despite anything I try and say to look what's going on here. People, please get involved. Please vote. Please at least register to vote. Please register to vote.ca.gov. Register to vote.ca.gov. We need more people like my guest today, David Serpa. And he's running for Congress. And he's a power hitter. He's a go-getter. And he's a lot of fun. I've had him on the show before. We had a blast. Saw him just recently again at the California statewide Trump train, the rally in Paso Robles, where we all converged there to that one central location. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of us. And all our vehicles all flagged up and everything else. And I can't wait to hear his opinion on the feeling he got, because he was the very first guest speaker, and I was emceeing the event. Was it very first, second? Second, I think. So anyway, I can't wait to ask him. I haven't asked him yet. How did you feel when you pulled into that parking lot and you saw hundreds of trucks and cars all flagged up? Most of them American flags, but there were a lot of Trump flags too. We have to do something. Something has to change. Until we start getting good people running for office, we're going to keep getting just more of the same, aren't we? But then when we do have good people running for office, We have to actually vote for them. We actually have to support them. The frustration is not just on the right with those of us who have been living under the tyrannical rule of the Democrat Party with a supermajority in California. And the media wants you to think that nobody feels the way you do, nobody thinks the way you do, and everybody is, you're all alone. You're a nut. Just sit down, shut up. We know what's best for you. You want to live in a smart, little 15-minute smart city, whether you like it or not. You will own nothing and be happy, like Klaus Schwab said from the World Economic Forum. We're not the only ones that have said, holy cow, this is bad. We got to do something to fix this and stop this. I got an example for you here on a video before we get David Serpa in. David, I know you're in the green room. I want you to pay attention to what this woman says. Now, warn you in advance. By the time I get it on the Rumble channel, rumble.com/do-not-talk, I will edit out the bad language. But we're live right now on Facebook and YouTube. So I'm giving you a language warning right now. If you're highly offended by bad language, and I am, and I used to live like a rock star before I got saved when I was 31, I talked like this woman. I didn't use some of the words she used, but I used all the cuss words. And so I'm just giving you a warning in advance. Now that I'm a believer, I take seriously, do not use coarse language. I take that scripture seriously, and I try not to. Try to find a more intelligent way to express myself and still get the same feeling across without using this language. So I'm giving you that warning right now, but watch this.
Black folks, every time I turn around, I just get more and more sick of y'all. What in the hell are y'all celebrating? Y'all haven't seen Camilla this entire time. Camilla did the same exact thing the average nigga do when they know they're about to need you. Figure out a way to get in contact with you. She threw up a barbecue. Niggas been getting tricked for years with food. She allowed y'all to drink up all the Czech sodas that y'all wanted and take all the pictures with her that y'all wanted, showing nothing but gums and teeth. Half of the photos that y'all was able to take with this woman wouldn't have dare been captured in a photo with half of y'all if she didn't need you. She wouldn't dare be even caught standing beside some of y'all if she didn't need you. And y'all celebrating because she was able to raise up millions of dollars in 24 hours. When we got sisters and brothers out here in the world can barely provide food on the table for their families. People out here in the world hurting. And y'all in celebration mode over this fuckery. Honestly, I think the best thing for all of us to do is do like our grandparents taught us. Stop tending to other people's house and worry about our own house. Some of y'all are too focused on the White House. In fact, some of y'all are just entirely too grown. You actually seen plenty presidents make it in and out the White House with absolutely no change being made after they depart. So I don't know why some of y'all grown ass is celebrating like y'all doing. You should be crying. You should be actually focused more on your finances, because by now you should know that all of this shit is about money. And if you ain't got none, you don't even matter. Your vote don't even matter. Your opinion don't even matter. Your celebration don't even matter. And let's just all stop deeming people to be the best fit for us just because we simply share the same skin color as them.
Wow.
Black folks, every time I turn around, I just get more and more sick of y'all.
Wow. I don't know about you, but when I saw that, I was encouraged. I thought maybe we do stand a chance. But there's still that ugly two-worded dragon rearing its head. Election fraud. Let's get the thoughts from my guest today. It's David Serpa. He's running for Congress. David Serpa for Congress.com. And he's on today. Do not talk. Hit it.
Yep, here he comes. Riding his trusted steed through the Sierra foothills as he brings you the news. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! He calls himself
Charlie.
What you doing, Charlie?
Sorry, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. There you are. Look how cute you are. Yeah.
Hey, Charlie. What's with the dark glasses?
And now, here he is, a man of God, living in a world of Disney.
Ow! Charlie!
Charlie Simons.
Charlie bit me.
Yeah, buddy, former Marine Corps, serving our nation with honor and distinction. And when he got out, he looked around him and went, "Okay, well now what do I do?" Probably at the ripe old age. Oh, I don't know. We'll ask him about it. And where he got to the point to where he is now. That's what I'm wanting to know about and wanting to get the thoughts on that. For example, like California statewide Trump train. What did you think of that, David Serpa?
Good afternoon, Charlie. How are you?
Borderline amazing. What did you think of that rally when you pulled in there? You were a guest speaker and you saw these hundreds of vehicles in the parking lot with all the flags.
You were right. I was the first speaker for the statewide Trump train rally in Paso Robles. And when I got there, I went to the hotel to write my speech and to kind of finalize what I was going to say. And then when we pulled out of the hotel, I went down to the lobby and got turned around and whatnot. And the next thing you know, I'm running a little bit late. And if you know anything about me, I always am cutting it a little bit close. And I get there and there's a huge line to get in. There's, trucks and RVs for just, almost probably a mile, because people were out there camping and whatnot. And I finally get out there to the Trump train rally, and I get the gathering, and I get in there, and I'm carrying the flag that I always carry with me, the one that's right here, right now.
There it is.
And it was amazing to be there with 600 plus other people that were just totally jacked up about the sea change that's happening in California.
It was a great event, especially considering it was an inaugural event and it was all volunteers putting the thing on. Nobody was making any money at that. And it's all just for the love of God, family, and country. There were pastors who were speaking. There were politicians who were speaking. Those who were running for office like you were speaking, and live music. It was just such a great event. I'm still on a high from it, as a matter of fact. I'm so glad I even got to be a part of it. Then when they asked me to MC, I'm like, absolutely. Are you kidding? This is great. And I really enjoyed it so much.
You always know that it's going to be a good time when you have an MC that is unhinged as Charlie Simons. When I got in there and I was like, this guy's the MC? This is going to be wild. This is going to be a little wild.
This could go upside down in a hot New York second.
I don't know if you watched this guy talk for 10 minutes at the beginning of his shows, but this guy's a little wild. When I tell people that I will do any podcast and this, you'll do any podcast, I'm going to start telling them I've done Charlie Simon show twice. I've done Do Not Talk twice.
There you go. How old were you when you got out of the Corps?
How old was I when I got out of the Marine Corps? I was 34, 33, around there.
Oh, how many years total were you in?
Oh, wait. I'm really, okay. Let's see. Actually, no, I was 28. Sorry. So I joined in 2010, and I was 23. I turned 24 in boot camp, and then I got out in the end of 2013 in October. So I don't know, however old I was.
Knowing you're a Marine,
27.
I wanted to swap hats, and just in honor of you, I wanted to swap hats here. You don't mind, knowing that you're a Marine and all.
That's very
nothing.
sweet.
I got nothing. I expected a reaction. I got nothing.
I'm not one of those guys that has any rivalry in me. I already, I'm grateful for all the different services, and I know that the Marine Corps is better, so I feel very confident, comfortable.
Well, you know what they say in the Army, how you can tell in a room full of strangers which one is the Marine?
Don't worry, he'll tell you.
Give him 15 minutes, he'll tell you. Yeah. So let's talk about that woman I had at the beginning of the show who was completely calling out, what did she call her, Camilla?
Well, regardless of what she called her, she's brought up a very important point, which is that it's all about money. It's all about money. We're supposed to be excited about these hundreds of millions of dollars that are being raised in these presidential races right now. And what I'm being quite concerned about is how unattainable that's going to make this in the future when this is the bar that's being set. And all of these campaign finance laws that were passed, a few years ago that basically made it so that super PACs can donate an unlimited amount of money. but an individual can only donate 3,300. So it's made it so that our elections, our republic, are for sale, and people are like, oh, like I heard you talking about the election integrity and whatnot, and I get it, but this is all happening out in the open. They're being very honest and very flagrant about all of this, and just look at the amount of money that's being spent in these campaign cycles. And then she talked about cleaning up your own house, which I think is very important. I think that, but as a country, I feel like we need to clean this house. And I think that as an Army veteran, and as a Marine Corps veteran, you and I both know that our problems are not overseas. Our problems are here. And so she's absolutely right. What changes? People say things to me. I get a lot of people saying a lot of different things to me, but they say, oh, Obama is really the one that's in control. And I'm telling you, the same people that are in control now were in control when Obama was in, we're in control when Clinton was in, we're in control when Bush Sr. was in. This is not a new beast that we are fighting. This is a very old, ancient beast that we are fighting, and it is a globalist animal, and it has its tentacles in our country. And I tell people, we have been divided and conquered and colonized. Just look at how divided we are today, and look at the way that we behave as a country. We're okay with the most oil-rich, so the third most oil-rich state in this country. An oil-rich country as it is, California. We're rich in lithium, we're rich in uranium, we're rich in oil. There's nothing that we lack for, and yet they ration everything back to us. Tell us we're not conquered. Tell me that we are not, that we are not an indoctrinated nation, that this has not been by design, that they didn't dry up our farms on purpose. Look at California. California is the breadbasket of America. Ukraine is the breadbasket of the Middle East. India is the breadbasket, India is the breadbasket of the Middle East. Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. California is the breadbasket of America. And then you look at India and you look at the, 10,000 plus farmers that have, off themselves, self-eliminated in the last 10 years. They've lost about 117,000 farmers to their own hand. And it's not an individual playbook in all of these different countries. It is the same playbook that is being passed down in every single country. And so I'm tired, brother. I've been fighting this beast for like 20 months at this point. I'm 20 months in, and people tell me things like, oh, we are in a spiritual warfare. This spiritual warfare. We're on the brink of a civil war. We are. This election is more important now than any election in history. And then I'm like, then act like it. Then act like it.
Yes.
So your words are not vibing with your actions, because I'm in the trenches 7 days a week. There's not a day that we are not working between now and election day. So act like it.
They're not even registered to vote, David. They're not even registered to vote. A third of the population claims to be Christian in the state of California, yet only 40% of them are even registered to vote. Only 40%. And when it comes to showing up for primary and midterm elections, it's in the teens. Pathetic. Just the Christians alone in the state of California could right this ship, could correct this course, could turn things around. We're not. You're right. I hear so many words, but no action. You're right. It's frustrating as heck. How do we combat that?
And you said 2/3 are Christian in this state,
third,
right?
A third, 1/3.
Okay, so you want to adjust your numbers, because it's actually 2/3. It's about 63% of adults in California identify as Christian.
You have different stats than I do. That's even more dismal, actually. That's even more disappointing.
Yeah, well,
how many of those, what are your stats? How many of those are even registered to vote?
So, and nationwide, it's about 69%, 70%. And so I can tell you that about 20% vote. And it's the same thing with gun owners. So gun owners in the state of California vote at about 20%. And when you look at,
it's pathetic. And I think a lot of it is because they're afraid to be on some kind of list. Listen, son, you're already on a list because you own a gun.
Mhm.
Step up. Start fighting against that. How do you fight against it? You're going to take up arms? I hear that too. Oh man, let them
Yeah,
just come into my property. Oh, shut up.
yeah,
Shut up.
they're already doing it. It's very easy to talk tough and be like, oh, when they come for me personally, then we'll see. It's like, what's happening in Colorado right now? Are they not here? Stop talking tough on the internet. I'm just like, I honestly, at this point, and there's other people who are like, oh, well, they deserve it. They're in a blue state, so they deserve it. And like, these people deserve to be kicked out of their homes at gunpoint.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm tired of the apathy that comes from my countrymen. That it's like, oh, someone else will do it, or oh, I don't really need to get involved. So I'm tired of the apathy, yes, but I'm also tired of the sort of distaste that we have for one another, the vitriol that we have for one another. Like, oh, everyone deserves the terrible things that are happening to them. It's become a very hateful society when 2/3 of this state are Christian, and about 70% of this country are Christian, and we're called to love one another above all things, because it is love that covers a multitude of sins. And I was on a show with Brad Dacus the other day at a town hall, and Brad said something beautiful. He said, we as a church
Oh, you froze up. Oh, shoot. Brad Dacus, I met, by the way, at Charlie Kirk's People's Convention in Detroit when I was there a couple of months ago. An extraordinary gentleman. You froze up there for a second. You froze up for a second. You were talking to David or to him, and he said what again? We missed that. You froze up.
Yeah, so Brad had said that if we as the church are doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we are so full of love that we will not be able to help but have that love flow out into the community. And so I just want people to feel that. You know what I mean? I want people to see that. And I don't know if you can see this, but I've got the 63%.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so there's reason to look up, and I don't think that you should feel disenchanted by that, or you should feel frustrated by that. I think that we have been indoctrinated in this country to believe that we cannot talk about the things that we are supposed to talk about and the places that we are supposed to talk about them. People say, oh, I belong to a church that doesn't get political. And I'm like, tell me about Jesus in Rome for just a minute. Tell me about Jesus in Rome just for a minute. Who was in control? You know what I mean? And so, you speak truth to power. That's what you do. And if you're not willing to say the things that you feel like you should be saying to your congregation, then I wonder who you're worshiping. And so I feel like there's a couple of things that are fundamentally happening in this country. We're having a spiritual revival, which is what it means to be connected to our Creator. And I'm not saying specifically, Christian, some people are different. I had a great night with my Hindu brothers and sisters, throughout this campaign, and my Jewish brothers and sisters and my Muslim brothers and sisters. But the thing is people are trying to figure out what it means to be connected with their Creator. And for me, that's God. And I have a relationship with His Son, Jesus Christ. And then second, people are trying to figure out what it means to be American. And I feel like this narrative has been hijacked. I feel like the American people created so much goodwill and love in this world for what we were willing to do in World War II. And then we have been dragged through the mud as the American people ever since by doing things like what in World War I we were doing, being a bully, for big muscle for big business. Because, there were, $27 trillion in mineral wealth in Afghanistan. Tell me that didn't have something to do with it. You know what I mean? So I'm tired of watching my countrymen be treated the same way that I watched the imperial part of my country treating other people in other countries. And so I have to tell people, we were first. How much were you paying for gas when you were a kid? Because I was filling up my tank for $11. It was, about 90 cents a gallon. How much do you pay now? And then take into account the fact that California, and looks this up, please look this up, fact check me. California owns 600 active oil well contracts on over 200,000 acres. So tell me that we're not involved in the oil game. Tell me that we're not involved in lithium when we're writing these sweetheart contracts to people that know nothing about lithium. The Salton Sea has lithium. San Bernardino has abundant amounts of uranium. The northeastern part of the state has uranium. We found 500 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in the northwestern part of this country. And what did they do? They outlawed gas stoves. We are an oil-rich country. We are an oil-rich state. And what do? They outlaw the internal combustion engine. We build nuclear plants. We get it up to where it's 32% of our grid. And what do? They decommission San Onofre, and then they move to decommission Diablo Canyon. So if you are not understanding that we are colonized, then you better realize it very quickly, because the same hands that are colonizing the rest of the world colonized us first. How does it feel, you serfs? How does it feel? You're not free. If freedom is financial freedom, and all of a sudden you can't even get fire insurance for your house, you can't, energy costs are up 300%. The cost of a mortgage is up, 172%. The cost of groceries is up, and it's all by design. We are essentially Russian serfs. We don't own anything. We don't own our businesses. We don't own our homes and our communities. We don't own the land that our homes sit on. Even if you pay it off, you're paying taxes on it forever. So, we got to wake up. We better wake up quickly. And I've been preaching this message for a couple of years now. And people are talking to me, Charlie, and I'm sorry to go off on a rant, but people are telling me, they're saying, David, what are you going to run for next? I am not going to win. And it is a heavily democratic.
Serious?
Yes. They said, you've got to have a plan. You got to be realistic. And the truth is this is a heavily Democratic district. And if I'm going to be realistic, I'm not going to win, right? But if David was going to be realistic, he wouldn't have gone across a field to take out a giant with 4 rocks in his pocket. And if,
Right.
If we were realistic in the book of Judges, you could go all the way back, to all these people. And what was the difference ultimately? Ian Weeks pointed out the difference. He said, the difference is if we win, it will not be because the CA GOP came in and helped us out. It will not be because our local Republican Party came in and saved the day. It will not be because of all these big donors or anything. It will be because of God. And at the end of the day, if I don't win, that's okay. That's okay. I have no idea what I'm going to do after this, but I know that I have to take this path. I know that I have to walk it, and I'm walking it as wildly as I can, Charlie. I am trying to do everything that I can with all of the right people around me to see that we accomplish the mission. But I'm tired, brother. It's rough.
I know. And that's why we have to lift each other up. And there's people with that indomitable spirit, like you. I just finally got to see the movie Reagan, extraordinary. I'd forgotten what a visionary he was, and didn't quit and didn't get discouraged. Oh, he got discouraged. I take that back. Boy, did he. But he had a support group behind him who were lifting him up, the wind beneath his wings. One of them being his awesome wife Nancy, and just a crew and a staff. And
we have a lot of things that we could learn from President Reagan as the great communicator. He talks about how the person who agrees with me 80% of the time is a friend and an ally, not a 20% traitor. And yet, we're in a constant hurry in the Republican Party to smoke out people that are not Republican enough. And I'm like, no, let's grow this party. Let's create a coalition, because a coalition requires a bunch of people that disagree on certain areas, but that come together for the overwhelmingly heavy places that they agree. Where do they overlap? And we have an opportunity here in California to build it where Reagan built it.
there's got to be some leadership changes in the state party, though. I've been a delegate now for year and a half through my friend Rudy Rosselli, who's running for Congress up here against that slug John Garamendi, who's just a Dianne Feinstein with gonads, just ensconced in his little district and does nothing but whatever the DNC tells him to do. Pathetic. Not a leader, just a bad man.
I know that there's a lot of talk about the head of the Republican Party, and there needs to be a lot of talk about the local central committees as well. But when is that state convention where we're going to be electing head of the state GOP?
That's the next one. That's going to be coming up in spring, right?
In the spring, okay. Yeah, no, I've been getting all of the people contacting me who are saying that they're going to be running, and I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it, Charlie?
I sure have become quite a fan of Mike Morrell, former Senator Mike Morrell. I've had him on the show a couple of times, and I like him. I think he's the real deal, Holyfield. But there's got to be the wind beneath the wings of guys like you. I don't know, how is the party supporting you? Have they, or it's just been so? Have they done anything?
Brother, it is. I had to fight for the endorsement. You know what I mean? And so, what is the endorsement other than some words on a piece of paper? So,
but people do pay attention.
But what I want to do is I want to create a winning organization out of the Republican Party. There's a reason why, if you look at my campaign, all of my events, I'm bringing in all of these different people who are Republicans and libertarians. I even invite Democrats. They don't show up, but I invite them. So, at the end of the day, I want to build a big tent Republican Party. I want to create a better country. I want to have people who are, America first, that want to, and when you're America first, you're not excluding anyone. That's the beautiful thing about being MAGA. It's very easy to be MAGA because the agenda is right out there.
America is a very embodiment of inclusivity. Bring everybody in. Come on, everybody's included. Let's all work together and synergistically become Americans. But that has turned out to be racist.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird the way that the flag is being looked at lately, but I think that a lot of that happened during the BLM movement, in that there was sort of a move to, the kneeling during the national anthem and the burning of the flag and whatnot. And the truth is, I'm a vet like you are. I'm a free speech absolutist. If you want to kneel during the national anthem, kneel during the national anthem. If you want to burn a flag, I don't like it. I would never participate in it, but I'm not like, make it illegal and lock people up. I just feel like we have not been engaging in a healthy dialogue for years. I mean, you look straight back to the 1960s to now. I mean, we have been kicking the can down the road intellectually for a long time. I feel like we had a lot of heavy hitting intellectual journalists and authors and writers and whatnot. And we're starting to see a resurgence of that. But people were not willing to have the conversations for a long time because the resistance got shot out of everybody. We've seen weaponized lawfare being taken out against, it was the Tea Party patriots. We saw, the way that, the Occupy Wall Street the Occupy Wall Street group was treated, the Black Panther Party. We don't like dissonance. We don't like discord. We don't like to have conversations that make us uncomfortable. And because of that, we have these, all this stuff that we sweep under the rug and we don't talk about it. Right. And then eventually that rug becomes a huge pile. You know what I mean? And it's like very hard to ignore.
A lot of that was because we did become the silent majority, as Richard Nixon labeled us.
Sure.
And, we sat back, but we're still huge, and there's a lot of people who think that way, think the way we do, and
people think that Nixon wasn't a popular president. Nixon was an overwhelmingly popular president when he got in there, when he got elected. The thing is populists, if you look at every populist throughout history, they try to get him out there. They try to do everything that they can to get rid of him. If you start speaking out against the military-industrial complex, against these multinational corporations, if you start speaking out against big agriculture or, whatever against war. If you speak out against war, big pharma,
Yeah.
you are not long for this world. They're going to take shots at you. You're going to experience, at the very least, legal troubles. So there's a reason why people say that they don't want to run for office until their family is good, or until their children are good, or until their children are grown, is we see the way that people are treated in this country who do run for office.
You've encountered that
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
from the left or from your own party as well?
So, it goes both ways. And I'll look in Facebook comments and whatnot on, both political parties' page. And the things that people say online, I don't think we would talk to each other like that if we were in person. I
No,
really don't.
Cowards. They're cowards.
Yeah. And so I try as much as possible to get out in front of people, including my critics. I try to say, hey, this is where I'm going to be. This is where I'm going to be there. You're welcome to be there. My schedule is public every week. I post it Monday night on my website. I let people know where I'm going to be, what events I'm going to be at, 7 days a week. And I can tell you that there have been some issues, and I don't want to give them too much airtime here, but nothing in the flesh, nothing in person. It's a different thing all of a sudden when you show up in person, because I'm a pretty approachable guy, despite being, 6'2" and 235 pounds and, a whole lot of killer, I'm a pretty cuddly dude and I'm pretty likable, and I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to stand in front of people and debate. Like Mark Takano has refused to debate. We had the town hall that was hosted by Brad Dacus. He got the invite. He was in town. He just didn't want to show up. And so, Cope had a panel that his team confirmed for, and he didn't show up for after he found out that I was going to be there. And then, there was a podcaster out here that reached out to him, Eric Stalter. Riverside City College, his own stomping grounds, reached out to him to host a debate on October 3rd, a month from today. And I hope that he does it, because I'm going to be there regardless. And so, I showed up at his town hall because he hasn't been responding to my team about debating. And I asked his team there in person, hey, can we set up a debate? Oh, you need to speak to the campaign team. Well, no one can get a hold of the campaign team. They're like ghosts. They're like Bigfoot or flying pigs or purple unicorns. They don't exist.
David, you know why that is, right?
He's hiding.
No, I think there's more to it than that.
Talk to me, Charlie. Shed some light on it, because I don't know what's going on.
They're arrogant. They're so arrogant. They know that the numbers are predominantly on the left, the ones who actually show up to vote. The people who get the government they want are the people who actually show up, by the way, my
That's
friend.
right.
So
No, that's 100% right.
We're not showing up, as he and I just talked about just a few minutes ago. We're not showing up. And because of that, they're so arrogant. They know that they have shut us down and shut us up for the most part. So they know anyone has a D in front of their name. And with the jungle primary now, which is an abysmal, ridiculous, stupid idea, Arnold Schwarzenegger, awful, it's done damaging things, especially to the party that actually initially enacted it. It was a huge, tragic mistake, and it has given us the supermajority of Democrats that we have now in this state, and I don't see any inroads into changing that.
Well, and when you
Unless
look
we
at
finally wake up and show up, but we're not, my friend, we're not. So they know they can sit there and do the whole Biden in the bunker routine. They don't have to do a damn thing, because there's always going to be an overwhelming number of people who will vote for them because they have a freaking D in front of their name.
Well, that's correct. And so, I live in a district that's plus 26 Democrat district. And so, but that being said, we've registered 9,000 new Republicans in this state in the last 2 years. And we've had a turnout, statewide California Republicans turned out at plus 5.4%. But in my district, they turned out at plus 13.9%. And so Republicans turned out to vote big time in the primary. This district that was considered unwinnable when I got started, President Trump, it was released. Congressman Mark Takano has internal polling that he shared in a closed door meeting in Congress that showed that President Trump is winning in the 39th district, which is a district where Biden won with 62% of the vote in the last cycle. And so there's a lot of things that are happening that make it show that this district might be at play. And so I think that there's a reason why he does not want to be seen around me. My local paper wrote an article and didn't mention my name or his name in it and who the candidates are in Riverside County. And, I don't know if it was intentional or not. I'm not going to assign to malice what could be assigned to, ignorance or an oversight. But what I can tell you is that at this point, I'm not interested in slinging mud at the Democrats. You know what I mean? I don't want to call them names. I think that these are people that more and more often, if we can just be welcoming to them, they realize that they've been abandoned by their party, that they don't stand for anything. Look at the last 3 election cycles that have happened. In 2016, you had a primary that was stolen from Bernie Sanders. And that's not according to me. That's according to Democrats. Elizabeth Warren said that. The vice chair of the Democratic Party, Tulsi Gabbard, said that. And they stole it from Bernie. And who did they give it to? Hillary. Correct. And then Hillary didn't win. And I think that they were surprised by that. But then did we have a democratic process in 2020? We most certainly did not. Bernie, once again, was popular, but you also had some populist candidates that they were burying. They didn't talk about Andrew Yang. The media machine buried Andrew Yang. They didn't want to talk about him because he had the whole Yang gang. He was talking about UBI. He was very
the
popular.
only one up on that stage that had any kind of semblance of intelligence and integrity.
I would put Tulsi Gabbard in there too. I think that
Tulsi too. You're right.
I mean, Tulsi slayed Kamala in that debate. And there was one comedian that said, Tulsi being from Hawaii knows how to roast a pig. And I thought, oh, that's savage. But she did. She called her out for all of her hypocrisy, called her out for being a prosecutor who wants to be a prosecutor president, for withholding evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row. I mean, the kind of stuff that she has gotten away with is outrageous, and that she still has a political career. But the thing is, nobody votes for her. And so she didn't receive a vote in California. And they worked against Bernie in 2016, and they chose Hillary. In 2020, they all worked against Bernie again, and they didn't choose Joe Biden because they were like, he's the man that could take out President Trump. They chose Biden because he was who they all chose to take out Bernie Sanders. And so at this point, you've got a whole lot of Democrats that are, Democrats, Republicans. It's not left versus right. It's always been the people versus the establishment versus the system. And so it should have been President Trump versus Bernie Sanders. That's what it should have been, twice. And then you had the third election cycle in 2024, where they were hiding Biden, where they were keeping him in the basement. Marianne Williamson ran. RFK Jr. ran, both of them into the Democratic Party. And they made it impossible for them to see the light of day. They sued RFK in 18 states and had another 11 where he had pending litigation. And so in 29 states, they were going to have lawsuits trying to keep him off the ballot. And so is that the party of democracy? And so you have a lot of Democrats, who I won't even call them Democrats. They've been screwed. They've been denied a democratic process 3 times in a row. And there are things that are important to them, which are now starting to be adopted by the right. Like, we're taking the stance against the multinational corporations. We're taking the stance against big agriculture. We're taking the stance against big pharma. We're taking the stance for free speech. We're taking the stance against the military industrial complex and, ending these forever wars. And we're taking the stance towards having an energy independent, nuclear powered America. And we're taking a stance for the American dream and for education and for children and for unions. When did you last see the synchronicity between the American people, unions, and the Republican Party like we are seeing now? And it's because we all realize that unions were hijacked, just like America has been hijacked. They were both forces for good, but they have to be checked from within by the people who are in them. That requires participation.
They've all been infiltrated. I mean, that's part of the Communist Manifesto. Go for the children, go for the unions, go for churches, go after
Any
them.
conquered country, they use their education system and they turn it into an indoctrination system. And when you look at America, have we been taught proper world history for the last 50, 60 years? We're not taught have we been taught American history? And so there are people on the left who get frustrated about us not knowing things or not being taught things that we should know, but they're being packaged in a way that they don't need to be packaged. Because the thing is race is the cousin of economics, but economics, the king is money, right? And so we are the product. And so if America is a corporation, which it is, and we are the employees, which we are, when is the last time that we got paid like investors for building out this business? But they don't have us thinking like that. Despite us being the richest country in the world, they are treating us like we are serfs, like we are wage slaves, like we are sharecroppers. And the reason why they are able to get away with this is because they say, oh, well, government doesn't need to be involved in that. Why should government not be involved in energy? Tell me why we shouldn't be involved. How many people have died because of nuclear energy in America? Zero. How many people have died because of PG&E in the last 8 years?
Hundreds, even thousands.
And I'm talking manslaughter charges. And so what ends up happening is they take away our energy, they ration it back to us, and then we have to pay for it monthly. Then we have to subsidize it by paying for solar panels, which are not efficient and which are not effective and do not store energy, right? And then we have to pay for it again when they don't do their job and we have to bail them out. So why are we subsidizing these private corporations that are preying on us? What we need to do is government needs to get involved in lithium, uranium, in desalination, create an abundant freshwater resource, drill on these oil contracts that we have in California, tap into that supply so that we can become an energy exporter, because they're using oil to shut down California. I don't know how many farms you've been on, but there's not a lot of extension cords running around. And they're making the internal combustion engine illegal as of 2030. That's going to put the very few farmers that are still in business completely out of business, not to mention our grid cannot handle it.
Right. It is insane, but I believe it's not an accident.
It's not an accident.
I think there's a higher, first of all, their authority is the devil himself. They're doing the devil's work just as quickly as possible before his time is short. You can't even, if you give any kind of critical thinking to what's going on, you can't even deny this wicked presence that's happening with the indoctrination and grooming of children alone. And then what David's talking about with the energy, it's all to erode and destroy what we call the middle class.
Correct.
They want to turn it into their Star Trek utopia, where everything's Silicon Valley in California, and the middle class people who have an idea of, why don't you just leave me alone and let me live my life and do my job here, and your job, as in that Reagan movie, I was reminded of Ronald Reagan's attitude: just let them work and let them do what they do best and leave them alone. Get out of their lives. Stop overtaxing them for everything, and they will rise to the occasion, because we do. But
correct.
Now we have a whole group of people who are going to sit back and let Big Daddy Government Bird feed them their regurgitated worms out of their stomachs. And
I'm not a fan of Big Daddy Government.
One world government. It's one world government, David. It's all about the Klaus Schwab, you'll own nothing to be happy. One world government. That's what, and you got to take down California for the rest of the nation to fail, because we're the powerhouse financially. California is, whether you like it or not. As California goes, so goes the rest of the country. And you don't believe me? Look back to times that this state has faced a terrible recession, inflation, whatever has happened, close to depression before. And let's look at 2008, for heaven's sake. What happened to the rest of the country? It all went down with it financially. We all had terrible, terrible times all across the board. And it starts in California. That is why they're so hell-bent on owning and dismantling it. Ruin what we have built. I really believe that's the goal. Maybe that's too conspiracy theory for you.
Okay, so look at 2008, which is really when a lot of this stuff started. You know what I mean? And 63% of all home builders that were in business in 2008 have gone out of business since then. So it's really, if there's 10 builders that are responsible for, most of the homes that are being built, which is why all the homes look the same in every part of the country. Now we've got the same builders, the same stuff, the same cheap products that they're now rationing, and they're creating all these little stupid, McMansions, but they're not doing it fast enough.
McMansions, I love it.
They're not doing it fast enough. So, instead of building, these 1,200, 1,400 square foot, 2 to 3 bedroom homes that this country was built on, and then bridging the middle class, what we're doing is we're building a bunch of 3,800 square foot homes, but we're not building them fast. We're building them 3,800 square foot homes, and then we're building the 15-minute cities, the high density housing.
Smart
and
cities.
I went into this extensively. We did a whole show on this on the Counterculture Mom Show with Tina Griffin. And I spoke about this for about an hour and a half. I went into the companies that are funding it, the nonprofits that are behind it. I went into the 3 different types of smart cities that are being, the 3 different types of backings that there are for the smart cities. And it's a lot there. And it's all totally by design. And the answer is rejecting the globalist, getting the globalist out of our country, because the monopoly board has gotten so jacked up because we said, okay, you cannot have one company controlling media. You cannot have one company controlling medicine or controlling housing or controlling whatever. But then what happened was they got wise and they all bought each other. And so you've got BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard, and they're all each other's biggest owners and biggest shareholders. And then you look at who owns them, and then you look up, you look up like Warren Buffett. Why is Warren Buffett getting a massive contract for lithium extraction? What does he know? What does Bill Gates know about farming? And so you look at these massive, what does Nestle know about water, to where they deserve to have all the water coming out of the San Bernardino National Forest? And, there's all of this stuff, and it's all controlled by the same people. And I'm trying, why does the Resnick family get to buy water rights, and water infrastructure that was built on public dollars for their wonderful company empire to grow pistachios and walnuts and all of these, high water producing, fruits and vegetables in Kern County, in an area that was dried up intentionally for decades, which they were able to buy for pennies on the dollar. And when you look at this stuff, people say, oh, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. No, stupid. You just have to pay attention. Like National Geographic covered this stuff. The mainstream media is even covering it. You just have to look at it. There was this whole expose that was done on Governor Newsom and PG&E, and the amount of money that was that had changed hands between, his campaign and the people around his campaign, and then them being bailed out and not being brought up on criminal charges. And that was done by a local news organization. It's a 6-part series. There's another bit that they did, I think it was KESQ did a whole expose on the amount of money that has been spent on the Salton Sea, despite the Salton Sea still drying up, even though it's the largest body of water in the entire state of California and home to more variety of species of bird wildlife than anywhere else in the world. And we're watching the Salton Sea dry up. So it's all intentional. They use it all as an opportunity to launder money. When you look at the billions that have been spent on the bullet train, the billions that have been spent on the Salton Sea, the billions that have been spent on water infrastructure, the billions that were spent in arts and music education that were then cut from arts and music education. So I'm tired of spending all this time exposing it. And I want people to step up and give me an opportunity to take on this fight in DC and, get involved with, donate $5, donate $10 or $20, or stand on a corner with us. Look at my flipping weekly schedule. I've got 7 days a week up on my website, davidserpaforcongress.com. And you could look up the, Meet David, or you could look up the volunteer page. You see what we're doing every day. We're standing on flags or standing on corners, holding flags. We're knocking on doors. Rod, what the F is this SHIT? Rod, my name's David Serpa. I'm running for Congress. And this is a comment that you just had coming in. And I'm talking to Charlie about my race for Congress. That's what's going on right now. You're caught up.
Now you're caught up. Please support people like David. Don't give your money to the state GOP, especially. Give the money that you want to help. You realize you're waking up. This is crucial. It's not too late. We got to do something. It is truly now or never.
And I can tell you, we don't have.
You give to people like David. You give to the individual candidates because they can do so much more than they can than even these central committees. Which these candidates, by the way, people like David, have to pay the central committee just to be on their recommendation list that they mail out to everybody in the county. They have to pay.
I don't have to pay the central committee. I have to pay the registrar of voters in order to go on.
My apologies. So, it's the registrar of voters, not the central committee. I'm sorry.
And that's a whole thing to unpack. So I had to pay about $5,100 to the registrar of voters office in order to have a candidate statement included, so that they'll print 3 paragraphs that says a little bit about my campaign. So, and that's a lot of money for a smaller campaign like my own. And, we've raised, I think, total over the course of the campaign, about $26,000. We've got only a few $1,000s cash on hand. But, this is what it breaks down to. This is what we're spending money on. It's about $5 for a yard sign and about $18 for a big 4-foot by 4-foot sign. I put out the signs myself. We're paying for flyers and for posters and things like that. And everyone that is on my campaign, except for our treasurer, who's handling our money and keeping me out of jail by making sure that our paperwork is current, is a volunteer. We don't have any paid staff at all. No paid political consultants.
Wow. So help them out. David Serpa for Congress.com, and Serpa spelled SERPA. David Serpa for the word for FOR. David Serpa for Congress.com. I was on a conference call with Kevin Kiley, Congressman Kiley, just a few days ago. And when it came time to being able to ask questions, I was not able to get through. My one question was, every time somebody asked me, well, Charlie, you think we're going to be able to do it this time? Do you think this election will actually be able to turn things around? My response is always the same. Nothing's changed with election fraud. California invented ways to cheat at elections, so much so that other states are stealing our ideas and using them, or they're being given to them voluntarily because they're all in favor of this one world government. Everybody take over everything. We got to shut up and shut down the Republicans first because there's too many people like David Serpa getting in there and actually exposing what we're doing. There's nothing that has been done by my own elected Republican representatives. I never hear them mention one thing about election fraud and integrity.
Yeah, I've got a lot of people around me that really, this is their thing. Like Shelby Bunch does a really great job, covering election integrity. We had our county supervisor, Karen Spiegel, did a whole, bit on election integrity. Sheriff Bianco has, been open to answering everyone's questions about election integrity. And so, what vote doesn't count? The one you don't cast. And so I don't spend a lot of time, on the election integrity stuff because I've got so much that's going on that I'm fighting for.
You can't. Yeah. I'm talking about those who are currently holding office.
And what I want people to do is I want people to
talk about it.
So lost in it that they don't show up to vote. And I'm telling you, in my county, they do talk about it, and it is being watched. And Sheriff Bianco has been very open about the election process in Riverside County. My entire district is in Riverside County. And so, we also, the head of the ROV was replaced about, I think, 10 months ago because of a massive petition campaign that was led in my county. So there's a lot of people in Riverside that are about that life, that are leading, the charge, which frees me up so that I can worry about running the campaign that I need to run.
Well, you're a blessing. I love that you're on the show again. It's always fun to talk to you, and always great to see you. So I wish you all the best, my brother.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate being back.
You bet. I am Charlie Simons. This is Do Not Talk. And if you want to help the show and help us stay on the air, you can do that through Venmo, venmo.com/do not talk. Venmo.com/do not talk. While you're sending $100 to David Serpa, davidserpa4congress.com, maybe you could pop 20 into my Venmo account. That'd be nice. Venmo.com/do not talk. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America bless God.